and welcome to the TwoFiveOh, the podcast where we wonder who would put a lamp on a chair. I'm Jonathan, and with me as always is my co-host Douglas. How are you, Douglas?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. I got some coffee with me. It's a nice day outside, and I'm here and I'm ready to talk about a movie.
What a wonderful day to be inside in a nice place to put a microphone.
Yes.
If this is your first time tuning into the TwoFiveOh, we have taken a snapshot of IMDb's top 250 movies of all time as of January 2020, and we've begun watching them from number 250 through to number 1. In this podcast, we discuss our opinions, our thoughts, and our reactions to the movies within. Today's movie, bonus number 2, thanks for writing that down, Douglas, is The Death of Stalin.
It's the variables. It's just how it does it.
Number bonus number 2.
Number bonus number. Based on the award-winning French graphic novel of the same title. Set in Moscow 1953, after being in power for nearly 30 years, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin takes ill and quickly dies. Now the members of the Council of Ministers scramble for the seat of power as they try to outwit one another.
The Death of Stalin is directed by Armando Iannucci, and it is written by Armando Iannucci, David Schneider, and Ian Martin, and based on the comic by Fabian Nuri and Thierry Robin.
I only found out, having just jotting down notes and everything for the podcast, that it was actually based on a graphic novel. I had not known that.
Which is interesting because it's, already obviously
so
very
based
heavily
in
based
fact.
off of... Yeah. I mean, it must have been a good comic. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. I would like to take a peek at it. It's only 2 volumes, so...
Oh, okay. Well, then that's an obvious,
Yeah, I'd love to take a peek at it, see what it's all about.
I
selected this film for the bonus snub. The next one our next bonus snub is one that you've selected, so I'm glad that we've we've had this little bit of a trade. This is a film that you haven't seen before and I have, and the next one is one that you've seen before and I haven't. So this is good. I obviously really enjoyed this movie. I think it's fucking brilliant. What did you think of it, Jonathan?
I loved it. Right from the very first scene, honestly, 30 seconds in the very first scene, I was like, I'm gonna fucking get along well with this film. You I think we know each other well enough that you're very much able to pick the films that I'm gonna like.
Yeah.
You described it as like Snatch, and I don't think that's a good description for it. I'm trying to think of... It's more like a television show almost, some kind of comedy TV show. The thing that it reminds me of, funny enough, our old man Armando, he also directed The Thick of It, which is a political drama comedy starring...
Peter Capaldi?
Peter Capaldi, my man, the Angry Doctor, and it actually feels really similar. I don't know, have you seen that?
No, I haven't. No, the only other bit of work of Iannucci's that I've seen is In the Loop, which is a film that he directed in 2009, which I also love, and that's got Peter Capaldi in it as well. Similar kind of deal. It's politics-centered. It's the US President and UK Prime Minister launching war in the Middle East, but behind the scenes you got these officials and advisors, either promoting the war or trying to stop it, and it's kind of the back and forth between two sides, and it's again, it's very, very similar in, I wouldn't say context, but theme.
The Thick of It definitely has, character-wise, is actually very similar, which is interesting. There's less scheming going on. So Peter Capaldi's character is this, I forget which division he works for, but the part of government he works for, he is one of the heads of it. And then there's all the civil servants that work along with him. And there's always things that will happen, massive cock-ups that will happen. And, they'll just be we'll just pin it on this fucker and just keep on going. This same kind of ruthless feel, which is hilarious because it makes sense in The Death of Stalin. These were fucking USSR, second in commands to a dictator.
Yeah.
Whereas in The Thick of It, it's just a guy who's just one branch of office in the UK that he's the head of. But it was very much the same feel, which I had no problem with. I find that show very funny as well.
That's great. I should check that out. That sounds right up my alley, honestly.
It's paced a bit slower, and The Thick of It is definitely more. You're kind of say comparing like the US and the UK Office. Like your kind of British humor is a lot more based around being uncomfortable.
Yes, yeah.
And the Thick of It follows that as well.
Gotcha.
But it's good. It's funny. So, what more could you want from a comedy?
And I'm having a quick squizzy at the IMDb of The Thick of It. It's each episode is 30 minutes long. There's 24 episodes. That's a weekend's worth of viewing.
That's 12 hours, baby.
Yeah, could smash that out.
If you're if you want to do that,
So inclined, yeah.
If you're so inclined. I thought, this was a comedy. I found it fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
The comedy is just really creative. It's extremely varied.
Yes.
And there's a lot of comedy that's just kind of conventional. Someone making a joke or a situation that's funny in like a pretty standard way. There's a lot of visual gags. There's a lot of one-liners and like quotable quotes and stuff. Yeah. And then there's also just some interesting comedy in like these very not mundane, but these situations that are just political squabbles or like just kind of just like arguments and stuff that from outset are very not funny. They seem very serious, but there's just these little touches to it that make them fucking hilarious.
They managed to squeeze a level of comedy into it all, yeah.
Yeah, which is really, really impressive because the film sticks extremely closely to the real world events that happened after, not extremely closely, but close enough to the real world events that happened after Stalin's death. And with some pretty like dour like themes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like just people getting executed all over the place and getting imprisoned for like no reason and shit like that. The comedy just blew me away. It was really, really, really funny.
I'm a big fan of black comedy personally, so I knew that this film would immediately be up my street when all of that black comedy stuff started happening, and I was like, yep, this is already tickling my fancy. So when I realized that was what the film was, I was actually recommended this film by a theatre friend of mine, and they literally just read me the cast list of, Steve Buscemi, Michael Palin, Jeffrey Tambor, Jason Isaacs, Paddy Considine, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a solid cast lineup. It was, came out 3 years ago, so pretty recent. Sounds like a good old romp. And beyond that, I had no idea. I didn't have any prior knowledge to the factual events of Stalin's death, nor did I have any idea of the actual, thus the substance of the film, what was actually happening within the film and everything. So I went in completely blind on my first viewing of this, and then coming out of it, I was just thoroughly satisfied in terms of bits where I was like, surely that has to be fiction. And then curiosity gets the best of you, and you go and look it up, and you're like, oh my God, that's actually like really close to what happened.
There's so much of it where, it's fucking amazing. It's so good.
Surreal. It's
but it's just like, but you just like, you get in these situations. One of the first like funny kind of moments, first comedy bits in the film is where what's the actor's name? He's one of the Andys from fucking Hot Fuzz.
Paddy Considine.
He is playing a person who's basically running a theater for an orchestra, and
he's like the radio guy. So he's like taking this orchestra that is playing live, and he's making sure that it gets fed through to the radio.
So he's like jogging into the theater, and he's like trying to like make like give orders and stuff, and he goes, "Nobody's going to die if we just." I'm just like, "Oh yeah,
take your fucking
that's right." This whole situation is very fucked. Which is just it works. It works so fucking well.
There's a lot of panic in the film, which I like. There's a lot of kind of manic. Oh shit, we need to get things done. Oh, this needs to happen. And this needs to happen. I really like that the lack of control that everyone has over the situation, I think, is really that makes it naturally rather comical, in that, you know, everyone is just struggling to try and keep hold of everything.
Yeah. A lot of the comedy is based around like squabbling, basically.
Yeah.
Which fit really well with there's like 10 key characters and I can't remember any of the fucking actors' names. Kill me. Jeffrey
Buscemi
Tambor
is pretty much your main character.
Buscemi as well.
Yeah.
Buscemi is, yeah, I would probably say that. Jeffrey always looks like he's playing Georgy Malenkov. Looks fucking just deeply unhappy at all times.
All the time. He has this like resting sad face, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, he just like his cheeks are starting to go, and it's not. But he fits that so well. He's just like constantly unhappy at all the fucking
because he's in
tomfoolery going around him.
What's it? He's got a TV. Yeah, Arrested Development. That's it. I was trying to figure out what his TV show was that he does. Yeah. And that's apparently a really good show, isn't it? Arrested Development.
It is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Our friend Jet said that he watched this film in theater and he liked it, and he also likes Arrested Development.
Oh, wow. There you go.
But the film has all these actors that it's completely, that comedy is completely character based, right?
Yeah.
All these, you've got, and which we'll go into further after the spoilers, but you've got characters that are kind of scheming, and you've got characters that are kind of, they seem like kind of going along with the flow, for want of a better term, just kind of like useless type characters. And yeah, our boy Malenkov, who is just constantly unhappy.
Yeah.
Amongst others, they just drive it so well, and it's this kind of clash of personalities that really builds both the drama of the situation, but also just the comedy of it.
Yeah, across the board, the council of ministers or the cabinet of politicians, they're all cast so very well, and all of the actors slot into their roles perfectly and just obviously really thrive and embellish on their characters. And when you have those group interactions, like the council of ministers all having their meetings and things surrounding the death of Stalin, and, you know, they're all scrambling and trying to figure out what to do, is fantastic. And I love the idea of everyone going, oh, it's such a tragedy, Stalin's passed away, but also, who's going to take over his spot? Like, am I going to take over the spot? You're going to take over oh, but it's so terrible, Stalin's dead, you know. I love that.
The first, I guess it's like that first like chunk of the film is like this charade where everyone's like trying to show how loyal they are to Stalin, but also like get in as many power plays as they can before that fucking curtain is pulled away and they can suddenly try and take over. There's a joke that
this is a reference that you won't get because you haven't seen it, but in BoJack Horseman, whenever someone passes away in that show, everyone always goes, thoughts and prayers. So it had that vibe, like, just, you know, oh yes, thoughts and prayers.
Amazing. All right, do you want to hit that spoiler train?
Well, would I recommend this film? Absolutely, yes. Go watch it right now.
Yes, no, it was fucking hilarious. And it also made me very interested in the historical truth of the whole situation, which was kind of fun.
Went down, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, check it out.
Now we can hit that siren.
Spoiler train. Choo choo.
A train coming down the track, like, very distantly, slowly coming.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Yes.
Give me a second. So I guess we can start from the start. I think that's a good spot.
It's a great place to begin.
As always, we start with this extremely classically shot orchestra scene.
Yeah.
And there's this swelling orchestra, and we cut to the back room. It gets cut off by this phone call, and you get this. It just sets the tone for the whole movie, where there's just this extremely agitated organizer, like, on the phone and not knowing exactly what's going down and trying to, like, hastily write notes, and his very useless uh, co-host just sitting there going like, "Oh, I mean, it was like 30 seconds ago, or maybe a minute."
Yeah, because Stalin says to call back in 17 minutes.
17 minutes.
He goes, 17 minutes from when I just put down the phone, or 17 minutes from when I said 17 minutes? Because that sets the absolutely, that sets the thing of like, you have to be so precise with Stalin. There's no ifs, ands, or buts with that guy. It's you say what you mean and you mean what you say.
Exactly. Which that whole first scene was such a good fucking start.
And then the pianist refusing to play, and then Paddy Considine's character pulling her in, going, "Do you want to get fucking killed?" Like,
it's and that reminds me, actually, one of my favorite parts that the film is kind of directed is that everyone uses their natural accents.
Yes, which is
a lot of people.
No, go for it.
A lot of people were comparing it to, in the reviews that I looked at, were comparing it to I think it was Red Swan, Black Swan,
okay.
Red Swan.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but yeah, go on.
Red Swan. There's this use of like natural accents vastly contrasts to a lot of films where they're like trying to set it in historical Russia, and you've got American actors trying to put on a Russian accent and doing a horrible fucking job of it.
So I was going to save this for the trivia, but since you've brought it up, the Iannucci insisted on not having the characters speak with Russian accents for two reasons. One of them was that he thought it would take the audiences out of the film, because they would have seen all of these actors speak in, obviously, their natural accents for pretty much all of the other media that they've been in. And he didn't want the actors to worry about their accent while they were improvising.
Right. Oh, okay. Is there a lot of improvisation in...
Oh, there's touches. I think some of the one-liners and stuff that pop out are improvised.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was basically Iannucci's decision to make sure that the actors were the most comfortable within their setting. And I think is one of the most brilliant decisions that you could ever make. Just to have these British guys in like a Russian setting it's so discordant, but it's also so fucking wonderful.
And it wasn't even just their accents. Like, I feel like a lot of the writing was written for that.
Yeah.
Like, them just like, I think someone calls, like, a couple people call each other bastards and stuff. So, like, that kind of concept. It's very kind of British, American
humor.
Yeah. And just like the way that it's spoken.
Yeah.
The kind of, what's the word?
The diction.
Whatever. Diction. Oh, I like that.
Oh.
The film has a fair bit of visual comedy.
Yeah.
Which is never it's never really something that really takes the forefront, but they'll just keep scenes going with little dumb things like what's Buscemi's character's name again?
Khrushchev.
Rocking up in to Stalin's like office in the pajamas.
Yeah.
And when there's that scene where they're going through the prison, there's just like people getting shot and like a guy just gets rolled down like a set of stairs with a rug.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes where they're doing the procession and there's the military truck with the coffin in the back of it, and then like right at the start, all the cars like try and get out at the same time and like get like jammed, and they're like, no, wait for the truck, and then as soon as the truck starts going, fuck me, I'm like going terrible with his names right now. Hey, Beria. How do you pronounce? He just like dashes back to his car and like go.
Because they all get out to salute Stalin in the coffin as he's getting driven off in the truck, and then Beria moves, and then Khrushchev's like, oh fuck, get back in the car. So good.
There's that, and there's just constant one-liners. I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of them in my notes.
Yeah.
There's the where he's like, whenever I'm taking a piss, I always make sure to look an officer in the eye. It ruins their day. That kind of thing.
Oh my god.
Just like little shit, like where they're standing in front of the first procession, or not procession, but the where they've got his body out on display,
Yeah.
and there's all the people walking past
Yeah.
it, and they have like a couple of close shots of people bringing like wreaths and like decorated like flower
Gigantic,
arrangements and
yeah.
stuff, and they're just like, oh fucking pollen, and the guy starts sneezing.
Yeah.
And
In that same
there's
scene
just, like-
where Khrushchev tries to do like he wants to move over so he can talk to someone.
Yes.
And he's like, make it look like it's just a change in service. And he like steps in front of Malenkov and he's like, what the fuck are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing? Oh, it's and that was what really got me about it. There's just so much variety and just trying to jam comedy in wherever possible
Into these sequences, yeah.
which is good because once again,
It's a very
follows
oddly
very-
somber film, and the context and everything is actually very, very somber. They managed to find the light in it, which is where all of the black comedy and everything comes in. And yeah, it's fucking excellent.
just the constant squabbling just got me.
Yeah,
That's-
and again, the sense of urgency for me is what gets me the sense of I need to talk to this person so that I can get this person on side, and oh shit, someone's already talked to them before I could, and that whole shtick. And even when Stalin is dead and they're kind of they're all surrounding Stalin's body and they're trying to think of a doctor to come and give the diagnosis, but they're trying to think of a doctor that they haven't already executed.
Yeah, we could get a bad doctor.
Yeah.
And everyone's sitting there going like, well, it would be the loyal thing to say no,
Yeah.
but and everyone still wants it type thing.
Yeah. Everyone wants to get a doctor to put him under proper.
I have the piss joke is the gift that keeps on giving, where Stalin's like dead and there's like this puddle of urine.
Oh
around
yeah,
him.
he pees himself.
And one of them has to like kneel in it, and everyone keeps commenting on it.
Yeah, they're like, oh god.
It's fucking delightful.
Yeah.
I've never been so fucking happy to see fucking Steve Buscemi in a film. Like,
Yeah.
I love that guy to begin with, but he really fucking rides
He
this
comes
thing.
alive in this film, absolutely.
He pushes a lot of the comedy, I guess. There's a lot of the other characters are funny through the kind of situations that are going in, but I guess he's kind of almost like the Peter Capaldi character
of this film.
He doesn't.
Totally.
He's like not the top dog, which kind of differentiates him, but he's this dude that's just like making things happen in this. He's got this very specific personality that is extremely fucking funny to watch.
Yeah.
I adored that.
We're going to be getting a lot more Buscemi in the 250 as well. I know for certain there's Fargo. He's in Fargo. And Reservoir Dogs. He's Mr. Pink in Reservoir Dogs. And I know that's in the 250 as well. So you're in luck. We'll be getting a little bit more Buscemi along the way, down the track.
You beauty. You do mention the whole like political drama and stuff. And I did feel like that got a little bit kind of pushed to the wayside. It was hard. I'd have a hard time, and I watched this film like 2 hours ago. I'd have a hard time like telling you all the political intrigue and the drama and stuff that happens in that.
Sure.
That kind of, yeah, it was harder to keep up with because you're more focused on the comedy of it all.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame. And there's also something I only realized after going through all the fucking documents. I think there are 2 scenes where they're trying to put Beria.
Barrier.
They're like, he is basically like, oh, he's fucking raping someone, basically.
Yes, yeah.
I did not fucking pick it until
Didn't
I actually
pick
got
it?
it. Like the bit where he goes into the jail cell, I'm like, that's like a really weird way to cut this.
Yeah.
And where he sees Polina, like, gets her out of prison. Actually, that's the same scene.
Yeah.
Or it's the same. It's not the same scene,
yeah.
but it's like connected.
Yeah.
It was like, and he's like shot from behind, like lit from behind. Sorry, to make him look like this really like creepy,
Imposing
figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pick that originally. It took me doing a little bit more research on it.
Neither did I.
To kind of just put that together.
But I think the great thing about this film is that, given all of the comedy and everything that happens, I think either you do have a history and knowledge of what happened surrounding Stalin's death, and therefore the cabinet members and everything, not everything about those cabinet members, but the basis knowledge of those cabinet members, that the movie doesn't need to be like, whoa, he's a kid raper. Like, it doesn't need to set that out for you. If you want to go and find that information, you can go and find it, and then you can go, shit, that's a really clever thing that the film did, because this film encourages you to go and seek more information about the circumstances, I think. At least it did for me.
And he's definitely... Because they've got the other torture scene where he's punching the guy and stuff. I guess the film does do a pretty good job of going like this, which is so fucking weird because they're all horrible, horrible people.
Absolutely.
Like, they've all, signed on to things to murder, like, hundreds of people, like political dissidents and that kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, Stalin helped throw over the Nazis in World War II, but also he sent, like, millions of people to their deaths with like gulags and everything like that. Like, it's it's almost substituting one bad for another, isn't it?
It's very interesting the way it's framed. And having to basically demonize one character in a group of just abject villains.
Yeah.
But you really don't think about it like that.
No.
Until, like, I guess the ending scene is, like, very brutal, where it's really not that funny.
No.
where they tie Barrier up and then...
Yeah, that whole sequence is actually pretty fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Because it's so vicious and brutal. The camera's, like, tight right in amongst the action. Barry's, like, starting to cry and everything, and everyone's screaming and yelling. It all feels so chaotic.
What was the film we did recently that I didn't super like? The kind of swap from a very lighthearted to the darker tone.
To a darker
tone.
Oh,
Butch Cassidy.
Oh, right.
How the ending of Butch Cassidy was also, like, stopped being funny. This did it better. I think it didn't feel as nasty. It was very short to begin with, but the film had also, throughout, it would jump between extremely serious stuff and funny stuff.
Yes.
So they might have that scene where they're rounding up all the civilians to throw them in prison from the list, and then they'll jump to, probably more squabbling.
Yeah.
If you're just to take any random scene, that's most likely what it was. So I guess it kind of tempered that a bit more, and it didn't feel as bad when you got to, like, this is the really brutal scene where this man is, like, crying for mercy and gets, like, shot in the head as he tries to run off type thing. And then, ashes get burned. His body gets burned type thing. Whereas Butch Cassidy, while obviously still has very serious themes of, they're, like, robbing people and stuff, it's played a lot more lighthearted.
Throughout the course of the film, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, they have, like, the robberies and, like, people, like the train conductor hops off and he's like, oh, I just want to meet, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And then there's, like, the kind of lighthearted conversation with the guard in the train, that kind of thing. So I think, tempered, I think, is the best way to describe it. The film never truly drops the fact that these are bad people and horrible things are happening.
Yes, yeah.
So
it doesn't try to justify any of the cabinet members in any way, shape, or form. And I think, obviously Khrushchev is the one that you can sympathize with the most, but even then, he is still not a good guy.
Yeah. And I think that's probably largely down to just the way that the characters are kind of framed and the way that the shots are done and stuff.
Yeah.
So his Barrier is always, there's a lot of emphasis put on him doing horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Like, with it, like, hands-on but you could swap to another character being the main, probably without that much trouble.
Yeah. You could probably find
So
antagonistic qualities amongst any of the cabinet members if you wanted to.
Exactly.
Um,
So
I mean,
I like that.
Except for Michael Chaplin's Molotov, but I think that's just because that's how Michael Palin presents that character. He's such a fucking cutie.
He's really interesting. I guess I might just jump into the kind of the historical.
Go for it.
Parallels.
Mm-hmm.
It is based on the real events.
Yep.
Some more loosely than others. The rerun of the orchestral situation, that happens at the start of the film, actually did happen.
Oh wow.
It was slightly different. It was what happened. The audience had all left by the time that they actually got the call. And the conductor didn't knock himself out. He was just too nervous.
Right.
And I believe that the pianist also didn't want to do it because she hated Stalin.
Right.
She didn't send a letter with the record, but Stalin sent 20,000 rubles to the orchestra, and in response to that, she sent him a letter that was along the lines of, like, may God forgive you for your sins against humanity type thing. And she was well known because for anyone else, that would have been a death sentence, but for whatever reason, she was never, arrested and executed for that kind of comment. And her grave is still, it's like a place that people visit. It's, people hold that in high regard, which is kind of nice, I guess. That was in the other kind of section of that intro, with the kind of night of drinking, that most likely did happen. In fact, before Stalin's cerebral hemorrhage, he was out drinking with members of the cabinet at his home. He was also a big fan of Western films.
Cowboy films. That's crazy.
Yeah. He really liked John Wayne, which is kind of interesting. And he apparently tried his hand at all manners of filmmaking, like acting and directing and that kind of stuff, which is kind of fun. Yeah. That was probably pretty closely kind of based in reality. Obviously, what killed him, I think, is still not known. It could have just been he just had a cerebral hemorrhage. It just does happen to some people sometimes. Berier's actions were mostly accurate. They don't know, obviously, whether he broke into Stalin's room and rustled through his stuff, but he did have all those documents that incriminated all the other members of the cabinet, so he could use them as leverage. He also replaced the army and stopped all the trains, so he could basically put Moscow under his own control.
Right.
His execution didn't happen in that matter. He actually did get a proper military trial, which is kind of funny because that's like kind of the big thing of the film. Yeah. They're like, no, we want to give him a trial first instead of just
full coup. Yeah.
But he was given a trial before a military tribunal, and he did beg for mercy, the mercy that he did not give to others. Svetlana was not exiled for her protection, but she actually stayed in Russia as a translator and an academic for a long time before leaving. She moved to the United States.
Wow. Which
was a big embarrassing thing for Russia.
Really?
And Vasily seemed to actually be a pretty good depiction. He was a big drunkard. He kept getting put in military positions that he was not capable of, and then making a big fuck up, and basically no one would specifically go like, oh, this dude's like making a mockery out of us. They'd just be like, oh, just put Vasily in like a different area.
I do know that, I'm sure you have it written down, but the Vasily with the hockey team and that whole, 1950 plane crash in Sverdlovsk that killed 19 people on board, and 11 of them were from the Soviet Air Force ice hockey team. So the team doctor and their masseuse as well. And then Vasily feared his Joseph Stalin's reaction, so he tried to downplay the seriousness of the crash, and he tried to recruit all of these replacement players in the hopes that Joseph wouldn't find out. I fucking love that. Like, I cannot believe
That's so good.
that is real, that is what happened, because that's a fantastic bit in the movie with Vasily, like, hanging over the fence, like the barrier of the ice hockey ring, going like, come on, boys, like, pull it together.
I loved that. I thought it was so good. And it's just like of all the characters, he was like more or less accurate.
Just his comic relief is fantastic.
Which is delightful.
Yeah, and I can't believe that is, pretty true to life.
So
That's
good.
fucking fantastic.
I guess that does remind me just of the characters. I just had this kind of realization that there's not really one performance you could single out as like better or worse.
I would disagree.
Would you?
Yeah, I would say Jason Isaacs.
Okay,
Jason Isaacs, Zhukov he's only in the film for, like maybe a quarter of it, but what he does with his character is fucking brilliant.
He's this great contrast to all the politicians who are kind of tiptoeing around things, and that's kind of how they do things, because they don't want to just go out and do something that might piss someone off.
They're the politicians, but he's the hammer. He's the army.
He's the hard-headed military dude who wants to like just get things done and
from fucking Yorkshire.
Yeah. Fuck, man. He's got like one of the strongest accents, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's got the Yorkshire accent, which is the strongest out of any of them. Which isn't Jason Isaacs' normal accent, for the record. He's
isn't it?
He's born in Liverpool. So he has a Liverpool accent, but he...
so he just kind of hammed it up, I guess.
Yeah, this is another bit of trivia that I was going to touch on, but he said that his decision to play Zhukov with a Yorkshire accent by saying, quote, "The bluntest people I know are Yorkshiremen," end quote.
That's excellent. I loved him going like, "I'm smiling, but I'm fucking furious."
But I'm fucking
it's kind
furious.
of like Bullet Dodger, what's his name from Snatch?
I don't know.
Boris the Bullet Dodger.
Oh,
No, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Boris, yeah.
Boris the Bullet... No, or is Boris... No, Boris is the Russian guy.
Is it?
Who's the guy with the Desert Eagle?
Oh, and he gets
Tony.
nearly mugged. Oh, yeah, Tony?
Who's Tony?
I think it is Tony.
He's that same kind of
Bullet-Tooth
character
Tony.
where he's... Bullet-Tooth Tony.
That's it.
He's not bloody Boris. What a dumb bitch am I.
Dickhead.
What a
Boris
dumb
is Boris the Blade.
Boris the Blade.
Yeah.
Oh. No, he's Boris the Blade and Boris the Bullet Dodger. They say that when they introduce him. Anyway, he's very much like Bullet-Tooth Tony.
Yes.
Where he's just going in and like roughing people up, basically.
Yeah.
He's fun because he's a good contrast, but the other characters are all very... They all have their little niche.
If we're talking about the cabinet,
character. Where you've got your Beria is this kind of scheming, no good guy. There's Molonkov, who is just like constantly worried because he's become like the head of the cabinet. But you can see whenever they have those little meetings, like he's not in control at all. It's always him and Beria like kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
And then Buscemi is kind of like, he's kind of a sort of a classic character archetype where he's getting put in like a bad situation and he needs to fucking make stuff happen or he's going to fucking get murdered in the middle of the night type thing.
Yeah.
And then Molotov, who is also kind of happy-go-lucky is not the right term.
He's just airheaded.
He's kind of trying to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And him, so in the film, he gets his wife released when Stalin dies. That actually is a historical thing.
Wow.
He voted because their whole thing was like unity, and that's why they're always like, passed unanimously. They when they said like we're going to imprison his wife, he abstained from that vote. He didn't vote against it. He just like didn't vote.
Cast his vote,
which
right?
Fucked.
Yeah, Jesus.
But that kind of this character, he's so like focused on the unity of the party that even when they're talking about her, they're like, oh yeah, she, we found evidence that she was, needed to be thrown in prison type thing. Like he's putting that before everything else. And then you've got all your kind of extra characters from the cabinet who are all these like hopeless, kind of like dumb twin characters.
Yeah.
I forget what those two are. So you've got them, your whole cabinet, you got Zhukov, and then you've got Svetlana and Vasily.
Yeah.
Vasily. And it's just this clash of characters that just makes the whole thing.
And it's the clash of ideas of what everyone wants for themselves, let alone for Russia. It's constant clash and constant
used as
panic.
a springboard for the comedy, basically.
Yeah.
The other thing I like, now that I'm thinking about that, I fucking adored all of the little slow motion intros they had.
Yeah, and the subtitle to go along with it.
The funniest fucking
so
thing.
Good.
Where they have like at the start, they're all the big guys are all kind of joking around and they're like what like drinking and stuff, and it cuts to them and it's like, this is the vice secretary of Russia.
Yeah,
and this is Stalin.
And when they're all rushing in to see Stalin's body, and you get all those slow motion scenes too, and Zhukov tossing off his cape when he rocks into the funeral. So yeah.
Fucking amazing.
And you get that traditional like Russian score playing over the top of it, like with all the instruments and everything. It's so good.
I kind of liked how, like, actor wise, there was how many Hot Fuzz characters were actors were there? There was
Paddy Considine.
Yep. There was the character who, I don't have it.
It's the old
he's
fella.
One of the doctors. Yeah.
A really old guy. And as soon as I saw his fucking face, I was like, is he going to do the...
Carl Johnson.
Yeah, Carl Johnson, that's it.
Am I actually misremembering this? Was it just those two guys?
I think it's just those two. PC Bob Walker is who he is in Hot Fuzz.
Paddy Considine, I picked that immediately.
Yeah.
Which I was very proud of myself for, because he has this, like... The moustache, basically, is like one of the key ways that you pick him out in Hot Fuzz. And I was like, fuck, it's that guy. I'm very proud of myself for that one.
No, I picked that up straight away. But he was in Hot Fuzz and The World's End as well.
Right.
So he was in
that's
two
right.
of the Cornetto trilogy. So
makes sense.
and I love that whole trilogy, and I've seen it 10 bajillion times. So I know that fucking Muppet anywhere.
I think I've only watched The World's End once.
You should check it out again. It's not.
I should check it out.
I mean, it's
again.
obviously not the strongest out of the trilogy, but it's a very good romp. And I like the sci-fi
elements of it. I think I potentially get more out of it now
on a second romp. Yeah. That's the same with this film. I feel like I got more out of this film having watched it a second time. So I would highly recommend watching this film once to soak up all that comedy and stuff. Going to do a little bit of research on, if you need to, about what the actual context and the substance of the film is, and then taking another swing at it, and then you can see all of those little nuances and perhaps appreciate the political intrigue and drama a touch more. Because it is there. I still think it is, contrary to what you were saying, I think it is there. It's just very neatly layered amongst comedy.
I think I'd definitely be looking out for it more the second time. Which... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about films that you need to watch multiple times to get the whole picture.
But that's Edgar Wright films in a nutshell.
That is. It is, exactly. That's coming to my head.
And you love Hot Fuzz.
I'm like, Hot Fuzz is a film that you need to watch like 8 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, but is also a lot of value to this film where it gives you a lot to think about afterwards, but not necessarily you need to go back and watch it again. I don't know.
Sure,
I don't think it's the worst thing.
I mean,
I think I'm definitely... Yeah, I'm going to watch it again, and I'm definitely going to be able to pick all the historical and dramatic kind of elements a lot easier because I know where to look.
Sure, yeah, definitely. But I guess that's kind of the thing with just about any of these factual, like, biography type of films is... Yeah, if you have the know-how and the knowledge, then, of course, you're going to be able to see those bits and bobs.
The last little note I have, and I probably should have jumped on this earlier, but did you think much about the visuals in this?
I think color-wise, it's obviously lots of blues and greys and red, obviously.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I didn't think too much about cinematography. It's nothing spectacular, you know. It captures what it needs to capture and does it in a nice way. The bit that I spoke of it earlier in the podcast, the standout for me is Berrier's arrest and then consequential death. I think that whole scene is shot really, really well. Rather than pulling the camera back, putting it like you're literally right in Berrier's face and being amongst it really adds to that tension and the chaos of that whole scene.
I don't recall, but I assume it was like a shaky cam type thing.
No, it was pretty smooth, from my memory.
Was it? Okay. So what makes me think that is the bit where he's going through Stalin's office is all shot in shaky cam.
Yeah.
And then once he's like, okay, I've got everything, and he sits down at the couch, it goes back into like smooth, you know, properly
fluid
gimbaled
dolly kind of shot. Yeah.
Dolly shots. Yeah. There was some interesting stuff with, it looked like a lot of the shots were real, like kind of establishing shots and stuff. Well, like this is the real. I forget what those fucking temples are called.
Kremlin?
In the really pretty, like colorful churches in Russia are called. They're like they're like spires and like ball-shaped ones, but that looked like the real deal, and a lot of the architecture and stuff looked like the real deal. So I'm wondering if they went through and got those shots there, or if they were from some kind of stock library.
Yeah,
because I know that Russia was not particularly pleased about this film.
Got some trivia on that one for you.
But I liked that a lot. That was very convincing.
Yeah,
which is good to kind of ground yourself.
Thinking back on it, pretty much a lot of the film is interior shots. There's not too much exterior stuff, and even then, a lot of that exterior stuff could easily be set in England or something like that. Yeah, very good point.
There was not. It didn't feel confined or anything. It felt. Yeah. And there was a lot of stuff with color grading where there's or even not even just color grading, but just use of color. So there's that one committee room where it's like all in like white marble. There's a lot of stuff where the military type areas and also just like the suburban, I guess, living areas are all very green and rundown looking browns, that kind of thing. Yeah. What really picks out for me is when they have that first the showing of the body. There's obviously all the red, but there's also like a lot of green going on, a lot of really bright colors, which majorly contrast what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is not that crazy. It's not obviously biased towards a certain color grading too much or anything. Nah. It was just kind of interesting. It's just a bit interesting to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it just with a lot of these films that we're talking about, they present information in a visually pleasing way.
Yeah, it's not made forefront the visuals of it. It's just kind of done competently.
Yeah.
Do you have any trivia for us, David?
I absolutely have some bloody trivia for you. You were just touching on how Russia wasn't especially pleased with this film. It was banned in Russia on January 23rd, 2018, which was 2 days before it was due to be released. The Cultural Ministry stated, quote, The distribution certificate for the film The Death of Stalin has been withdrawn, end quote. One member of the Culture Ministry's advisory board was quoted as saying, quote, "The film desecrates our historical symbols, the Soviet hymn, orders and medals, and Marshal Zhukov is portrayed as an idiot," end quote. And added that the film's...
Was he?
No, I don't think so, but anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, all right.
Added that the film's release in advance of the 75th anniversary of the end of the Battle of Stalingrad, which was February the 2nd, would be a, quote, "an affront to Russia's World War II veterans," end quote.
Oof.
So, yeah, I think, I don't know, understandable. I mean, I can't agree with that Field Marshal Zhukov thing. I thought, I don't know, he's not an idiot. He's just very blunt.
He's played as like one of the more competent characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's just he's the man who gets shit done. As you've touched on earlier, in one scene, Beria locks a young woman in a cellar and later gives her a bunch of flowers upon release. Beria was a notorious sexual predator, sometimes driven around Moscow in search of victims to assault. After Beria had finished with his victims, they were routinely offered a bunch of flowers. To accept was to imply that whatever had happened was consensual, and to refuse could lead to arrest, torture, and disappearance.
Ugh.
Which is, yeah... yucky.
Yeah, that's big yucky.
The opening scenario in the concert hall is based on an incident, as you said prior, that happened a few years before Stalin actually passed away. They actually had to use 3 conductors because the second one was drunk, but the director felt that was too unbelievable.
I think that could have worked.
Another section that...
The first conductor knocked...
Yeah,
sorry,
getting himself
go
knocked
ahead.
out, and then another one just being pissed as hell.
They'd be like, all right, where's number 2?
Yeah.
And they like cut to him and he's just like sprawled
Fucking
over a table
blithered,
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another bit that the director thought was too unbelievable and was thus censored from the film. Jason Isaacs as General Zhukov wears even fewer medals than the real-life General Zhukov wore. So, in the film, General Zhukov's, the Jason Isaacs General Zhukov, his jacket is just covered with medals. And I remember thinking that, that's obviously like a grotesque, send-up of what Zhukov, the amount of medals he had. Nope. He apparently has...
No, they toned it down.
Yep. He has way more than that, apparently.
Amazing.
When Stalin collapses from a stroke, one guard hearing his collapse from outside asks if they should investigate. The other guard replies that he should shut up before Stalin kills both of them for entering without permission. Stalin left explicit standing orders not to disturb him while he was sleeping under any circumstances, with disobedience punishable by death. It's one reason why no one tried to investigate when he didn't wake up at his usual time. So it was, fucking you go
that's
in.
Interesting.
Kinda.
I like that. That's kind of interesting.
When Nikita Khrushchev comforts Svetlana Stalin, she buries her head in her hands and says, "I might as well shoot myself like mother." On November 9th of 1932, Svetlana's mother, Nadezhda Aliyeva, had a public spat with her husband, Joseph Stalin, during a dinner party over the effects of the government's collectivization program on various peasants in the USSR. She went up to the bedroom and shot herself.
Oof.
So.
Oof. After an argument.
Yeah, after an argument with her husband.
Huh. Ay.
Georgy Malenkov's amphibology. Do you know what amphibology means?
I don't know what an amphibology
Basically
is.
an ambiguous statement or phrase. So,
Okay.
in this case, the amphibology of no, comma, problem is possibly a nod to the famous Russian winged word, which can have opposite meanings depending on the punctuation or the speaker's intonation. Pardon, comma, impossible to be executed, could also mean pardon impossible, full stop, to be executed, full stop.
Right.
So I like that. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is a really cute little inclusion.
Nod, yeah. Jason Isaacs' decision was that he put a large scar on his face to show that Zhukov had been to war, and the real Zhukov didn't actually have a scar on his face.
Right.
Which I thought was, that's fair.
I think that was a good move.
To show that he's seen some shit. If the medals weren't enough, then the scar kind of reinforces that. When the replacement doctors are summoned following Stalin's death, the actor playing the young doctor, so the one that is constantly, chastised for being, the young kid, You're still a baby.
What was the quote I had? Sorry, keep going.
He is Emilio Iannucci, who is the son of Armando Iannucci.
Interesting. There's the one where he's like, "Are you?" He's like, "How old are you?" He's like, I'm old," and he's like, "Fuck off!" And he like points to the other guy, and he's like, "You're not even a human." The guy with like the flat face.
How old are you? I'm old. You're not old.
That's right. That's right.
So many quotable quotes in this film. Yeah, that's all I had. I mean, obviously, I could go on and on about the amount of stuff that goes on within this film that is, as you said, factual as well as fictitious. There's, just lots and lots to talk about. But, I fucking love this movie. I'm so glad that we were able to talk about it and that I could squeeze it in.
It was really, really good. I am very glad that you recommended this one.
Also, I only just found this out just because I was glancing over it, but Jason Isaacs is fucking Lucius Malfoy.
Oh, you're fucking joking. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You are kidding me.
What?
Fuck off. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Alright.
Well, we're going to be seeing
I don't know.
Jason Isaacs again.
I was so fucking proud of myself for picking, what's his name at the start.
Paddy Considine, yeah.
Didn't get that at all.
Yeah, neither did I until just then.
Yeah. Alright, well. Fuck yeah. I think even if you didn't watch it and have just listened through the spoilers, you probably, it being a comedy, the kind of meat of the film is in the jokes, most of which we haven't spoiled. So I would still highly recommend you watch
Absolutely.
it. It's very, very fucking funny.
Yeah. This is one of those ones that even if you have listened to all of this, still fucking go and watch it because it is such a good movie. And I definitely want to go and check out more of Armando Iannucci's work. I really like all of this political satire stuff that he is obviously very well renowned for, with Veep, Thick of It, In the Loop. It all seems really, really good.
Absolute cracker. So if you wanna bloody chat to us, if you've got a complaint or a suggestion or something, you can find, I don't know, why do people use email these days?
I like that you...
I
like that you started it off with, if you have a complaint, like...
Yeah, I'm
so
setting the bar
cynical
really low.
that you're already expecting.
Well, I don't
want to
be like, oh, if you wanna work with us, if you wanna praise us for the amazing job that we've done. Let's be realistic here. It's complaints are most likely. Our email is 2fiveohpod@gmail.com. That is TWOFIVEOHPOD@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at 2fiveohpod, spelt as before.
Same handle. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Pocket Casts, Google Home, and Amazon Echo. So you can go, hey Google, play thing.
I haven't tried that. I should.
You should. You have a Google Home. I have a Google Home. I
Yeah,
can't use my Google Home, and it's really pissing me off because I can't connect it to the Wi-Fi that I'm on right now because it's a real pain.
Okay. I'm considering getting rid of mine because I honestly don't like the concept of having a microphone just in my house all the time, and it's gotten worse. They did some updates, and it is significantly slower than when I first got it.
Wow.
And I'm just I'm just gonna buy a timer and a chart that lets me fucking convert metric and imperial measurements, because that is 90% of what I use it for.
Yeah, just for setting timers and stuff, right?
But if you have a Google Home,
you can
want
use
to
it.
listen to podcasts on it. You ostensibly can. We haven't actually checked, but the...
Well, I mean, the numbers are reading back that people are listening on Google Home and stuff.
The numbers don't lie.
Exactly.
If you are interested in other film-related stuff, you should check out Letterboxd. It is a website we both use, a media tracking type social media situation, which you can make lists of films that you want to watch, films that you have watched. You can write reviews. You can just look at some obscenities that people are putting up there about
There's some really funny
films.
reviews on some of the films. If you dig into ones that aren't as liked as much or are recent, there's some real crackers in there.
My personal Letterboxd is Upa. That is UUUPAH. That's 3 U's in a row because I'm greedy. I write reviews in haiku form because I think I'm clever. And Douglas.
Mine is IENZOKNIGHT. That's Yenzo Knight with a K. If you just whack that into the search engine, either Upa or Yenzo Knight, you'll find both of us on Letterboxd, and you can see some written form reviews of what we talk about here on the 250, as well as what other films we're just checking out that are not relevant to the 250. For example, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood not too long ago, and I whacked up a review for that. So it was actually really good. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, fuck
Not
yeah.
Tarantino's best, but definitely still a solid Tarantino film.
Nothing like a good Tarantini to really just get the blood pumping.
Tarantini Bobini.
Exactly. All right.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the 250, and as always, we look forward to seeing you real soon.
Real soon. I'll see you later. That's a new one.
Oh, boy, baby, another one in the bag.